So we just finished dinner.
Yes.
We're clearing the table. Annika's about 6 years old.
Well, we were doing dishes.
Kim and I are doing dishes together at the sink. And Kim asked Annika to engage in, helping. So, hey, Annika, can you start bringing some of the dishes over and clear the table for us? And Annika threw a huge fit. She didn't want anything to do with it. And, 6-year-olds, that's pretty normal.
She was pretty disrespectful,
and
though.
She was at a stage where she was still learning how to respect her mom.
Mm-hmm.
And Kim wasn't doing anything. She wasn't saying anything. It was like it was as if it wasn't even happening. And my blood was boiling. I knew I couldn't just jump in and jump on Annika. So what I did was lean over and whisper in Kim's ear, "Aren't you going to do something about that?"
Nagging.
Yes. Imagine Kim's anger.
Oh.
That was the point where her blood started to boil. And it just didn't go well. Welcome to the Blended Family Coaching Show, where you'll discover how to move your stepfamily from just surviving to truly thriving.
Grab your headphones and listen in as we share practical, real-life strategies for building healthy bonds,
Understanding the kids' perspective,
romance and partnership,
parenting with great teamwork.
and yes, even co-parenting with a difficult ex.
We're Mike and Kim Anderson, and we believe with the right tools, every step couple can overcome the common challenges of stepfamily life.
Join us for authentic and sometimes comical conversations to discover how you can lead your family with confidence and create the future you really want.
Well, hey, welcome to episode 13.
Hello.
Yeah, we're excited. Today, we have a specific question from our listeners. And so we're going to start out sharing that, and then we're going to dive into the subject.
Yeah, it's a really good question that we hear all the time. And here it is. How do we come together around discipline?
Yes, a very common question.
Parenting.
Yeah.
It's tough.
What do you think the number one reason is people reach out to help for us, hon?
Parenting.
Yeah,
Parenting
exactly.
issues. They're right there. They're right
Yeah.
in your face all the time coming at you. It's
That's
not
right.
something any couple can avoid.
Yeah. And I wonder why is that so darn hard? Well, we've kind of got a few ideas of why it might be hard. One, when we hear this a lot, we've got such different parenting styles.
Yep.
And yes, that happens a lot. There's different ways to approach that. And in fact, we talked about that back in episode 4.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to link to episode 4 in the show notes. If you missed that one, go check it out.
Yeah, check it out because it's actually, there's some positive things that can come
That's
from
right.
different parenting styles.
That's right. So the question is, how do we come together around discipline? And we're asking, why is this so hard? Well, the second reason is, so first it's parenting styles, but then we have different expectations a lot of the time.
They can be miles apart.
That's right. Sometimes we think we're on the same page, but what we actually expect as individuals, as husband and wife, as parent and step-parent, our expectations are vastly different.
So different.
And a third reason why is we actually have very different roles as a parent and a step-parent. And unfortunately, there's quite a lack of understanding out there in the general world
A lot of
about
confusion.
the different roles and how we play them well.
Yeah, I think sometimes couples come together thinking that, we're going to function just like a first family now. We're parents and we're going to parent all these kids together. And
As
they
if we
kind
were
of
a first
simplify it into this first family model. But we know that it is anything but simple for a step family, parenting and discipline. So today, we're going to narrow in and focus on the roles, the different roles, because it's such a big topic. And what we want you to do is think of yourselves as parental partners in training. Okay. That's where you're at. Even if you're in the beginning of your journey, this takes a while. Establishing your roles and learning how to really support each other. This is a process. It takes intentionality and it takes training.
Yeah.
You're in boot camp here.
Yeah, that's a good way to
And
put
so
it.
that's what we're going to explore today. And this is a really important topic because being effective parental partners in a step family, like I said, it is complicated. A lot of times we think it's going to be easy. It's never easy. I don't know how many times we've heard, over the years, over and over, we get along great and we have so much fun together and we have so much in common. We have a great relationship until the kids are around.
Yeah, that's right.
Then we argue and we nitpick and we have nothing in common and we can't stand each other.
That's true. I wasn't sure where you were going with that. And I'm like, yeah, that's actually
how many
really
times
true.
have we heard? I mean, if we had a dime for every time we've heard that, we could buy a new
microphone.
No, we could buy an island in the Caribbean. We've heard it so many times. No, it's definitely a thing for step families.
Yep.
And part of the problem is that anything that impacts our kids becomes a heart issue for us. Our kids are just directly attached to our heartstrings. That's the most delicate, tender place of our heart. Yeah. So parenting can get emotionally charged. And this is why parenting
That's putting it lightly.
Yeah, these issues can quickly escalate into conflict for step couples.
Yep.
A lot of conflict. And we know that from our marriage, right, honey?
Well, our very first and the biggest fight, those are two separate fights, definitely centered all around parenting.
Parenting my daughter.
Yep.
That was the deal. And these were big big fights. Like one was a 3-day standoff. Yep. Around parenting and discipline. So that's where we're going today. And the first thing we're going to touch on here is the role of a parent, the bio parent's role.
We're really tackling from the two different roles, the parent role and the step parent role. What kind of mindset do I need to have around playing that role well?
Yeah,
that's a big piece of what we're tackling today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the first thing we want to focus on for bio parents or parents is we've got to have courage. We've got to have a lot of courage when we're going through this process of learning to become parental partners.
What do you mean by courage?
Courage, we've got to humble ourselves and admit that we don't know everything. There is no parent that ever existed that knows everything around parenting. There's always some room for improvement. And the truth is, parents, we've got some blind spots, some parental blind spots. Every parent has some blind spots around their kids, those things that they just don't want to see clearly and they want to excuse and avoid.
Yeah. But what we really want is to believe that we know exactly what's right and the next step when we're dealing with our kids. Yeah. We want to believe that. And it takes courage, you're right, to say, maybe I need to learn something new or different.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes our parenting can be influenced by our own difficult emotions. We come into step family life dealing with some wounds from the past, and so do our kids. So sometimes we are carrying guilt or fear around, and that can tend to lead us into a more permissive approach. Yep. Maybe we're overcompensating because we feel some guilt for what our kids have been through. Maybe we're overprotecting them. Yeah. And those can become blind spots, and they really aren't good for our kids in the big picture.
So you're saying we have to have the courage to just face that and
we've got to face it. Yeah. And get past ourselves. Mm-hmm. And then what we really have to have the courage to do as well, if this partnership is going to work out, we each have our role. And the number one role of the bio parent is to hold on to that primary parental authority with your kids.
You always got to be the bad guy.
You do. It's your job. Your job to set the expectations with the kids around behavior. It's your job to dole out
them accountable.
Hold them accountable, to dole out the consequences if necessary. Kids need boundaries. They need limits and they need discipline. And it's the bio parent's job to hold on to that authority. You can't hand that over to a step parent. It's not fair and it's not right for the kids.
Yeah, this isn't a new conversation. If you've been listening to the podcast for any time, we've already talked about that.
But that does take courage.
It does.
Right? It's a lot easier to just abdicate and say, I'm remarried now. I've got the help I need. Hey, Johnny's acting up again. Yeah, you go take care of it. I'm really tired. That's right. But you've got to have the courage to hang in there. You've already got the authority with your kids. Just biologically, you hold that standing. You've got to hang in there and have the courage to do it.
So as a bio parent, you got to really have courage. You got to have that courage to admit you don't know everything.
Yeah, there's room for growth.
And hold on to that primary authority. What else does a bio parent need?
They need to have some curiosity. as you're building your partnership.
Didn't that kill the cat?
It may have killed the cat, but you've got to have that openness towards your new partner. You're becoming parental partners as a team. Yeah. So it's not just about you anymore. You've got to open yourself up to genuinely want to know and discover your partner's perspective. The step parent is going to have opinions and perspectives about your kids. That always is going to be there. But a lot of times we want to get defensive. I know I did. Whenever Mike would offer some insight about my daughter, I took that as an immediate offense, to my parenting. He doesn't think I'm a good parent. Yeah. And I got really defensive. And actually, I asked you to butt out on more than one occasion, didn't I?
Yeah, there were times where you were not very curious about my opinion.
No. But the truth is, honey, that you have made me a better parent. Your insights are really good. And, Mike has this really special gift at thinking of creative and appropriate consequences for poor behavior. Now, I was the one to lay down the consequences, but behind closed doors, I
guess I contributed some stuff.
Oh, yes.
But the only time I ever had an opportunity to contribute was when you were curious about what I was thinking and what my opinion was.
Yeah. I came to realize that Mike is more objectively positioned than I was. So he could help me move beyond those blind spots and become a better parent to my daughter.
Would you say that in general, maybe not with everybody, but in general, is the step parent usually a little bit more objectively positioned? They can see things maybe with less emotion sometimes?
I think so.
Okay. That's not a hard and fast rule.
Yeah.
But maybe as a bio parent, if we're curious, we might be going, I wonder how objective my partner might be, and maybe I should at least just entertain what they're sharing.
Yeah. And part of that is trying to understand what's behind their perspective. Because 9 out of 10 times, the step parent wants good things for your kids.
Even though you don't believe it.
Even though you may not believe it. And so rather than getting defensive and thinking, they're attacking my parenting or they're being hard on my kids, open yourself up to understand what is behind their perspective. Ask them questions. Why do you think that's important? Tell me more about that. I mean, we've had those discussions about my daughter, Annika, who was at one point pretty irresponsible. Yeah. And I had a blind spot around that. And your objective opinion, once I sat down and listened to what your perspective was, it was very helpful in helping me to move. I mean, the bottom line here for the bio parent, for every parent, is to make the best decision you can for your child, right? We all want to do that. And within these new dynamics, these step family dynamics, we've also got to ensure that our partner is valued part of that process.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's the partnership, right?
That's the partnership.
Going all the way back to the question, how do we come together around discipline?
Yeah.
So you're saying that as a bio parent, then we need to have courage, first of all, which is closely related to humility and backing down and saying, well, maybe I don't know everything. And I know I need to lead when it comes to holding on to authority here. But if I don't know everything, then I got to get curious about what my partner sees and thinks. And those two steps are going to help me be at a place where I'm more willing to come together with my partner.
Yeah. And we want to be really clear here, because a lot of the messaging out there for step parents is step parents back off. Let your partner do all the parenting. Right. You are in the background, you back off. But that's not building a partnership. That's not coming together. And the step parent should be involved in parental decisions.
Yeah. We're so excited to let you know about something brand new we've created just for you.
We've realized that with so many episodes available here on the show, it might feel a bit overwhelming to find the topics that matter most to you. That's why we've created a simple tool for you to receive a personalized playlist focused on your current struggle or your biggest challenge.
That's right. It's called the Blended Family Breakthrough Quiz. You'll answer just a few questions, and based on your responses, we'll email you a curated custom playlist of episodes that are specific to you.
This simple quiz will direct you to the most impactful episodes that pertain to you personally and keep you on track in your journey of discovery, learning, and growth. So, scroll all the way to the bottom of the show notes for this episode and click the link to take the Blended Family Breakthrough Quiz today.
Okay, let's get back to the discussion. And it's not just, hey, step-parent, back off. It's, hey, step-couple, get strategic. Understand the strategy, understand the importance of the roles, and then get strategic about how you're going to partner for the betterment of your whole family.
Of everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up. So that's the two kind of things that a bio parent might be focused on.
They sound simple, but
they're hard.
They're hard.
Yeah, they're hard. Courage and curiosity. How are you living that out as a bio parent? Courage and curiosity. So let's talk about a couple of things from a step parent role perspective. Step parents, we have to be very patient along the way. You know, we've got probably high expectations. We're expecting.
What were your expectations?
If we're really honest, I'll share my expectations, and I have a belief that many step parents have these same expectations. Number one, I have an expectation that Kim is going to make me a priority, that we're going to be connected as a couple, and that I am going to become a priority quickly. Number two, I'm expecting that my stepkids are going to respond to me favorably, both when I'm praising them and when I'm maybe holding them accountable. And I found out really quickly that those expectations were pretty darn high.
No wonder we had so many fights.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing about that, though, is I believe over the last 19 years, we've actually learned to achieve those things. However, I had to learn that it wasn't going to happen overnight.
Yeah, I was through this long process of our partnership training.
So patience was key for me. I had to slow down my thought process. I had to slow down my expectations and realize, hey, I need to allow these things to emerge, not expect them to happen right away. Now, one of the ways that I bucked against these expectations was making sure, how do I say this? Making sure that Kim knew my opinion. And guess what that did? That totally shut her curiosity down, because I chose quite often to share my thoughts right in the moment, right when I had them. I wasn't very empathetic. I was just like, what are you going to do about this kid? This is crazy.
You were a bit like a bulldozer.
I was a little bit of a bull in a china shop. Yep. And honestly, what I had to realize is, when I'm not patient, I'm keeping Kim from being able to have that courage and curiosity she needed to have. Yeah. So as a step parent, I had to realize that part of my role was to help support Kim and really encourage her and sometimes just get out of the way.
Yeah. Sometimes and have empathy for what the bio parent might be experiencing. It's hard to make these changes.
That's right. And then I'm also kind of a guy, when things aren't going my way, I like to take control. And so when things weren't going well with Annika, it was a real struggle for me not to just take authority and start taking charge.
And be forceful.
Yeah. But I had to remember that it's all about connection, especially in the early years, not correction. And I had to work with Kim behind closed doors. And then I had to learn how to start really trusting her to go out and deliver whatever it was we agreed on. Yeah. So it took a lot of patience for me to work on that. And I think every step parent needs to look through those lenses, recognizing that, the change is going to take time. And how can we not sweat the small stuff and really be focused on how we're going to partner with our spouse so that we can become a good parenting team together. We're parenting partners in training, right? So patience is huge for that.
It's about supporting each other as you're learning.
So the next thing that I had to learn when it came to
this one was a sharp learning curve, steep learning curve
to being a good step parent and coming together around discipline was prudence. If you want to be heard as a step parent, then you need to be cautious and wise in how you're sharing your thoughts and your opinions. So I've told this story lots of times. I don't think I've told it on the podcast yet, but there was a time I ask step parents often to kind of imagine that you've just finished dinner and you're clearing the table. And actually, let me tell it in the first person. So we just finished dinner.
Yes.
We're clearing the table. Annika's about 6 years old.
Well, we were doing dishes.
Kim and I are doing dishes together at the sink. And Kim asked Annika to engage in, helping. So, hey, Annika, can you start bringing some of the dishes over and clear the table for us? And Annika threw a huge fit. She didn't want anything to do with it. And, 6-year-olds, that's pretty normal.
She was pretty disrespectful,
and
though.
She was at a stage where she was still learning how to respect her mom.
Mm-hmm.
And Kim wasn't doing anything. She wasn't saying anything. It was like it was as if it wasn't even happening. And my blood was boiling. And remember a moment ago, I said, I want to take control when things aren't going my way. So I knew I couldn't just jump in and jump on Annika. So what I did was lean over and whisper in Kim's ear, "Aren't you going to do something about that?"
Nagging.
Yes. Imagine Kim's anger.
Oh.
That was the point where her blood started to boil. And it just didn't go well because everything was already tense. The emotions were running high, and I just dumped kerosene right onto the fire by doing that because I didn't have prudence. And that shut Kim's curiosity down in that moment. And so, I've got to be wise. I've had to learn over the years of how it is that I'm going to open Kim's curiosity up. And through prudence, I'm able to do that. I can now strategically understand and really watch where Kim is emotionally. And I know that, a couple hours later, maybe I can come back around and say, "Hey, remember when that happened? I'm wondering if we can talk about that." Or sometimes if it's a big deal, I had to wait a day or two to come back around and say, "Hey, I'd love to be able to talk about that."
Yeah, we talked about how these issues can get emotionally charged because our kids are involved.
Yeah.
And we've heard step parents say, "Oh, but if I don't say something, then the kid's going to get away with it."
Right.
And step parents get so locked into, "I have to fix this right now, right in the moment."
Yep.
And we're here to tell you, relax.
Yeah.
That child is going to act up again.
That's right.
Guaranteed.
You're going to have plenty of opportunity.
Yes. You don't need to react right in the moment because you're not helping your partner by doing that. In that moment, I was dealing with what's called a paralyzed parent.
Yep.
I had blind spots.
Yeah. You were a paralyzed parent.
I was a paralyzed parent. And if you want to learn more about that, we can link the blog to that.
We have a blog about paralyzed parenting.
Because in order to have courage and hold the authority, you have to get past your being paralyzed. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that you can let it go and bring it around later. Like Mike said, he would wait sometimes days later when I was calmer, when we were alone, when the emotions weren't as charged. I was much more open to hear his perspective and talk through the issue.
Yeah. So if you want to reach the goal of being a really good parenting partner with your spouse and having some positive response from the kids, which I believe we can all reach that goal. As a step parent, we've got to be patient and we've got to have prudence. We've got to have wisdom and caution as we learn how to share our opinions with our partner. So those are 4 things. The question again is, how do we come together around discipline? This is just the starting point. These are 4 things that we can focus on. The bio parent having courage and being curious about what their partner his perspective is, and a step parent being very patient and prudent in how they partner well and support that bio parent to move everybody forward. Yeah. Now that seems, simplistic sometimes, and especially, those in a simple step family, it's pretty easy to delineate that. I'm the step parent, you're the bio parent, and we can really focus on that.
Yeah, but that's not always the case, right?
No,
we
it's
said
not.
Things can get really complicated. And if you're in what we call a complex step family, and that's where both of you have brought kids into the family unit, so it's yours and mine, and maybe even ours. We've got,
We've got ours babies.
Yeah, several sets of kids that you're parenting. This can get extremely complicated. And what it really means is that you're having to consciously switch hats.
That's right.
What hat am I wearing in this situation? Am I the bio parent? Am I the step parent? And it may be multiple times in a single day that you're switching hats and remembering your roles and practicing what your role is until it becomes automatic. Getting on the same page is going to be more challenging for complex step families. But even simple step families, we only had the one that we started off with, and it was a challenge. But it's critical. It's critical that we get this down. Now, when we're not on the same page, for most complex step couples or complex step families and non-complex step families, if we're not on the same page, then we can react to these circumstances in ways that create a lot of unhealthy dynamics and unpredictability for the kids. They don't know what's happening. They don't know what they're walking into. They're walking on eggshells. They don't know who's going to respond or how. And the long-term effects of this can lead to some double standards in the home. The kids see the differences. They see the unpredictable responses. And then they can even start to reject our parenting or acting out even more. And it can cause a lot of problems when we're not on the same page.
And that drives the wedge between us as a parenting partnership even deeper. And that wedge grows even bigger.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because on top of people telling us that, when the kids aren't around, we're an awesome couple, we've also heard countless times that parenting is just pulling us apart. I mean, we've seen couples split because of these parenting issues. So that's why we started out saying this takes some intentional training. This is something that needs to be at the top of your priority list for blended families, learning how to do this well.
And we're just skimming the surface on this podcast episode.
This is something you want to continually keep learning and growing. And we're going to share another link in the show notes about what's called parent-child allegiances. Now, we've talked before about parental allegiances, and parental allegiances is between a child's two parents,
mom
and
one
two
home
different
and dad
homes.
in another home.
That's not what we're talking about here. A parent-child allegiance is kind of having that biological split within your home, where the kids and the bio parents align and they leave the step parent out.
Or if you're in a complex step family, the step parent and the step siblings out.
Everyone goes into their biological camps, and what can really cause turmoil within the marriage is when these parent-child allegiances happen, and then the kids tend to have a lot of power. They're kind of calling the shots with their bio parent, and it completely undermines the partnership of the couple.
That's right. So we can't get into all that today, but we'll link to a blog that's been out on our website for a while, and we'll put that in the show notes.
And I just can't stress enough, keep learning about how to become parental partners.
That's right. So again, when you're in a complex step family, it can be more complicated, but the underlying message doesn't change.
No.
Bio parents really need to focus on courage and curiosity.
And keeping their parental authority.
That's right. And step parents need to be focused on patience and prudence as they walk forward. Whether you're in a simple step family or a complex step family, you might be asking the question, okay, that all sounds great, but when it comes to, when the rubber meets the road, how do we really start getting ourselves on the same page?
What are the nuts and bolts?
That's right. Now, at the beginning of the episode, we said that one of the big problems is having different expectations. And that we hear over and over. In fact, the couples who work directly with us, that's where we start. How are we going to get our expectations aligned? And the problem there is when you came into this, you're merging two cultures. You have different histories, you have different habits. You know, one set of kids has one idea of how things should go, and the other set of kids has another idea, and we're caught in the middle sometimes as adults, and we're battling each other because we want it to be a certain way.
It's amazing how different our priorities can be when it comes to child rearing.
Yeah, that's right. So when it comes to this whole thing around parenting and discipline, we've got to get our expectations in line, and the goal to start is really to get everything out on the table.
Yeah.
What are the values, the character traits, the life skills that we want to teach to our kids that are most important to each of us individually? Yeah. And then how can we organize and prioritize them in a way that honors both of us as the leaders of our home and helps us to develop a plan so that we can lead our kids forward as a united team toward those goals? We're the parenting partners in training.
Yeah, and how do we do all this without getting overwhelmed?
Right. That's right. Yeah, because a lot of times what we do is we jump in and we want to say, okay, let's just figure out the house rules. And we come up with this big, long list of rules. And that list of rules has a tendency to actually break down step relationships because it's really focused on behavior and response as opposed to building a relationship between a step parent and a stepchild.
Yeah, because it's common when a couple comes together, they see all the things that they don't like.
Yep.
And, we need to change that. Your kids need to stop doing that. And this needs to change. Okay. And then they write a big, long list of rules.
And the kids left going, we never had to do this before. Oh, it must be stepmom's fault, stepdad's fault. That wasn't like this before you came in. And now we're not protecting that relationship anymore.
Now some resentments are growing with the kids.
What does the house rule thing do to the bio parent?
Well, it overwhelms them, right? Yeah. All of it's hard enough just to maintain what you've got going when you were a single parent. Now, all of a sudden, you've got all these new things that you're expected to enforce. You become the enforcer.
So you got the coaches telling you, oh, bio parent needs to hold on to authority. And then, by the way, we're going to put on about 20 new rules.
And it's a tough job for a bio parent who may have limited time with their kids.
Sure.
Because they feel like, well, I only see my kids half the time. And all I'm doing is enforcing this huge long list of rules. And half of these things are not even that important to me.
So now we've got conflict arising between the step relationships. We've got conflict happening between the couple. And then a lot of times, eventually, we just tend to give up because
we're exhausted.
The house rules are too much, and we're exhausted. We're not able to stay consistent. So we want to take a different approach. We look at this as really focusing on values and character traits and how we're going to become parenting partners working together to come up with what we call a code of conduct. And we kind of throw the house rules out the window. We've found that to be very effective with lots of different couples over the years. And, there's a ton of information out there about how to get some of that done, about parenting, about getting on the same page. You can read lots of books, blogs, listen to podcasts, all kinds of things, and really do your best to research that on your own. And you'll probably make some good progress. There's some really great information out there. We would love to be able to fast track those results and ask you to allow us to walk you through the process
and to help train you in this.
That's right. We've got a really simple, easy to engage and kind of fun set of videos. It's an online workshop called Step Families That Make It. And, kind of a shameless plug for one of our products here, but you can get into this for less than $50.
Yeah. If you really want to become excellent parental partners.
Yep.
This is your tool.
That's right. So for less than $50 and in about 2 weeks, if you stick with the program and you watch a couple of videos, they're pretty easy and they're very practical and direct. You can build your own code of conduct and really take the first major step in bringing your partnership to a place of being parental partners.
Yeah.
And we would love to be able to walk you through that. We want to serve through this podcast, so I don't want to get super salesy here, but would love for you to check it out. We will link to this in the show notes. You can go check that out.
And if you have questions, let us know. I mean, a code of conduct is different than house rules. There's a distinct difference.
Would love for you to go and hit that. And that might be one of the major steps that you take towards solving this problem of how do we come together around discipline. This is a big step. It's where we start with every couple.
Yeah, and we just scratched the surface today. This is a topic that I'm sure we'll be talking about more and more.
That's right.
But we wanted to offer you that tool because that's a way to get it just moving and really clarify where it is you're going as a family.
So parents, bio parents, think about for you, what does courage look like today? And how can I get more curious about what my partner, what their opinion is and what their perspective is? And step parents, how can you just slow down, re-examine your expectations and be patient? And as you're reaching out to your partner to share your opinions and your perspectives, be really prudent in the way that you do that. And I think that's going to be some great first steps toward you coming together as a parenting team.
And have empathy for each other. Really practice putting yourself in your partner's shoes and try to understand what it would be like for them in this setting and really try to get a handle on their frustrations and what's going on for them.
That's right. So we are coming to a close of episode, I believe, 13. And we love, on a huge topic, and we're going to talk more about parenting as this podcast continues to move forward. We love getting questions from our listeners. In fact, that's what inspired today's episode. And next week we have another question that we're going to tackle, and you don't want to miss it. Somebody asked us, can you talk about how to let go of your perfectionistic ideals, that coming to the conclusion that there will always be a divide in the family that the nuclear family just doesn't have. So a first family doesn't have the same type of biological divide that we do in blended families. You know, they said, no matter how hard you try to make your family feel like a nuclear family or a first family, it's just impossible. So how do you let go of that perfectionistic ideal? That's what we're going to focus on next week. We can't wait to
another
join
great
with you
topic.
All right. That's a wrap.
Until next time, take care.